Neighbours 2, Sorority Rising, or released in some countries as Bad Neighbours 2 and on home release as Neighbours 2, is a 2016 American comedy film directed by Nicholas Stoller and written by Stoller, Andrew J. Cohen, Brendan O'Brien, Seth Rogen, and Evan Goldberg. A sequel to Neighbours in 2014, the plot follows the Raiders, Rogen and Rose Byrne, having to outwit a new sorority led by Shelby, Chloë Grace Moretz, living next door to sell their house, currently in escrow. Zac Efron, Dave Franco, Christopher Mintz-Plasse, Jerrod Carmichael, Ike Barinholtz, Carla Gallo, Hannibal Buress, and Lisa Kudrow reprised their roles from the first film. It was Rogen's first live-action sequel. The film premiered on April 26, 2016 in Berlin and was released on May 20, 2016 in the United States, receiving mostly positive reviews, and it grossed $108 million worldwide against a $35 million budget. The main cast includes Seth Rogen as Mac Radner and Rose Byrne as Kelly Radner. They were having another baby and preparing to sell their home to the Bayes family. The Radners' realtor reminds them that the house is in escrow for 30 days. Escrow means a contractual arrangement in which the third party, the stakeholder or the escrow agent, receives and disburses money or property for the primary transacting parties, with the disbursement dependent on conditions agreed to by the transacting parties. Zac Efron reprising his role as Teddy Sanders, the one-time nemesis of Mac and Kelly Radner, who now is an outcast, as all of his friends have grown up and gotten jobs, and so he initially helps the sorority who moves in next door, but later turns against them and helps the Radners try and shut the sorority down. Chloë Grace Moretz as Shelby Robeck, a college freshman who learns that sororities are not allowed to host parties, and disgusted by the sexist and predatory frat parties, the trio, her friends now Beth and Nora, played here by Kirsty Clemens and Benny Feldstein, create their own new sorority called Kappa Nu to throw their own parties. Dave Franco as Pete Reganzoli, Teddy's best friend, who has come out as gay and is getting married, and Ike Barinholtz as Jimmy Blevins, the Radners' best friend. By February of 2015, a sequel to Neighbours was in development, with Nicholas Stoller set to return to direct. Andrew J. Cohen and Brendan O'Brien returned to write the film along with Stoller, Seth Rogen, and Evan Goldberg. Goldberg said he read a list of feminist essays as part of research for the script. Two female comedians, Amanda Lund and Mary Belusky, were brought on board to punch up the jokes, but director Stoller explained that they were ultimately not given the writers' credits because of the Writers' Guild stipulations. The film follows Mac and Kelly joining forces with Delta Psi frat leader Teddy to take on the sorority girls who move in next door. Rogen, Rose Byrne, and Zac Efron all returned to star. And in July 2015, Chloë Grace Moretz was joined the cast, with the title revealed as Neighbours 2, Sorority Rising. During post-production, Lena Dunham, LL Cool J, and Cameron Dallas' scenes were all cut from the final film. In a cut, Dunham played Joan of Arc, and LL Cool J played Beth's father. On May 16, 2016, Seth Rogen uploaded a short film sequel, Sorority Rising, to his Twitter account titled Neighbours 3, Zombies Rising, in which he and Zac Efron reprise their roles as Mac and Teddy. The film follows the pair as they argue over how to deal with a tied-up zombie, with the matters becoming complicated when Teddy realizes the zombie was once part of his fraternity, Delta Psi Beta. The short ends after the pair accidentally kill the zombie, with Rogen and Efron themselves discussing what a great idea it would be for a third feature-length Neighbours film. Some interesting trivia notes: Rose Byrne was actually pregnant with her son Rocco when filming this movie. The theatrical release poster for the movie is a parody of Captain America Civil War in 2016, which also involved two teams fighting against each other. Now, as often is the case with a lot of sequels, there really is no point to them being made. Whereas the first film was hilarious, original, and surprisingly funny, this film is kind of acting as more of the same, just now replacing the frat boys with a sorority instead. Look, don't get me wrong, there are still some surprisingly amount of funny parts in the movie that are somewhat recycled, but in the same breath can still make you laugh. And like I said, it isn't as good as the first movie, but it's not that bad either, as some comedy sequels can really just not work at all. I think where this movie really works is the sort of combination here between Seth Rogen and Rose Byrne. They just have a perfect chemistry and play off each other well. I also like the interaction between Rogen and Zac Efron. Rogen really brings out another side of Zac Efron as a comedic actor, and it really works quite well on screen. As I say, this is a pretty routine follow-up. It has some decent material that can be quite funny, and some of it can be maybe in a bad taste. But basically, this film is diluted with more of the same. It's same gags, it's the same sort of story. There's really nothing original here. I thought the movie handled the depiction of the gay relationship and positive support from friends in a bromance very well, and doesn't play to the normal stereotypes and rather makes it more acceptable as it should be. I feel the film should also be commended for its feminist message and for engaging on issues of gender equality. in that the sorority now just wants to have freedom to be themselves. In the same breath, though, I'd hardly call this a progressive movie in any way. Look, at the end of the day, you watch a movie like this to forget about the world, to have fun, to laugh, and to just relax. It is more of the same, but at the same breath, it's a lot of fun. And Chloë Grace Moretz does a good job here as now the main antagonist, as it were, in this film, taking up the mantle from Zac Efron in the first one. For me, it's one of those films, it was never made, you wouldn't have necessarily missed it. But in the same breath, though, it's a good way to fill an evening, particularly if you've seen the first film. By no means as original and as funny as the first film, Neighbours 2 will still give you a good laugh. And therefore, Neighbours 2 gets a 6.5 out of 10.